Namaste to all. Good morning, Sunday morning. On behalf of the Indian section of the Theosophical Society, I welcome you all for a talk and guided meditation session on the topic meditation, awareness, and non-attachment, followed by guided meditation by Brother Vincent Houchin Jr. I am Mathurnath, moderator for the day, and with me is Smita Pragyan on the IT side. Before we commence the session, let us start with a universal prayer. Please sit down, close your eyes, and take a couple of deep breaths. Center yourselves. And now silently, let's use the words of the universal invocation. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature. O hidden love, embracing all in oneness. May all who feel themselves as one with Thee know they are therefore one with every other. Observe 2 minutes of silence and silently run these words within yourself. May all who feel themselves as one with Thee know they are therefore one with every other. We are one. Gently return to your body. So we will now proceed with the introduction of the speaker. The speaker of the day is Vincent Houchin Jr. Vincent Houchin Jr., or Vic as we call him, is a distinguished theosophist of global renown. He is a past president of the TS in the Philippines and founder and chairman of the Global Link School. Vic is the author of Why Meditate and the Process of Self-Transformation. He has compiled, edited, and published the chronological edition of the Mahatma Letters to AP Synod and is editor of the Theosophical Digest. Vic is also an associate editor and contributor to the Theosophical Encyclopedia. Let us now hear the content from his videos, which will be followed by a meditation session. Smitaji, please share the video.
If you have found that your mind and feelings were calm, you'll notice that it will tend to be sustained for 5 or 10 minutes, and after which we may go back to a former habit of identifying our minds or our awareness with our thoughts and feelings and body.
वो इंडिविजुअली
As we
इसलिए फिर वो
continue doing,
इडियोसिंक्रेसीज बोलते हैं ना, और ऐसे बड़े
find that this quality of awareness will become longer and longer even during daily life. In the practice of daily meditation, there is what is formed, what we may call peripheral awareness. An awareness which is not the direct field of attention, but simply awareness of something that's happening within our consciousness. This is also what the Buddhists refer to as mindfulness, what Christian meditators speak of as self-recollectedness. This will become more and more permanent as a part of our consciousness the more that we practice meditation on a daily basis. During the past week and the past session that we had last week and the other week, I had mentioned that meditation is not simply for 20 or 30 minutes, but it is intimately connected with our daily life. When the daily life is continuously troubled, restless, then we will find that when we go into meditation, these disturbances will enter into our minds because they are unfinished businesses of daily life. So last week, I mentioned about the importance of being mindful about how we go about our daily affairs and to learn to be effective in whatever it is that we do in our life. Today, I would like to add something that constitutes the root of these disturbances. It is about attachment and non-attachment. Every day, whatever we do, whether we are just at home or whether we are working or whether we handle heavy responsibilities, there are things which are our duties or things that concern us. And we have to do them because not doing them will just produce more problems and troubles and conflicts in life. But as we do so, it is important that we engage ourselves in daily life with the affairs of the world without attachment. To be attached means that our sense of self gets involved and identified with that thing which we are concerned about. It can be about something that we own, maybe a computer, maybe money, maybe a house. It can be a person whom we care for. It can be a wife, child, parent, brothers, or friends. And we mix up concern with attachment. When we love people, for example, a lot of people would think that to love is to be attached. This is a mixture between love and desire and attachment. We can love anybody. We can love our spouses, children, parents, or people near to us without necessarily being attached to them. When we love people, we are caring about their best welfare, and it's not about ourselves. If for some reason they have to leave, either physically leave to a distant place or leave because they pass away, then we are able to accept it. But we don't hold on to them, because when we try to hold on to them, it means that we are concerned about our egoic needs, the needs of our ego. When we care for somebody, we think of their welfare, we act for their welfare, and after that, no more. In other words, it's not about my desire, my need, because that's no longer loving, but rather the manifestation of my need to satisfy something within myself. This yearning, this deeper need, this psychological need is something which is very natural, normal to people. But that also is a reason why meditation is difficult to most people. because the way that people interact with the world is with attachment, mixing up our egoic needs with the affairs of the world. And hence we can, on a daily basis, try to explore, experiment, observe, such that we express our concern. But when there is a need inside that seems to be getting attached to that object of concern, just be aware of it. And then we will begin to notice that that kind of a need begins to gradually fade away without us necessarily trying to stop it. Awareness has a very profound function in the transformation of the consciousness. Whatever we are aware of, we transcend, and then that thing which may not be normal or natural begins to normalize itself. For example, I may have a need about a person or something, and if I'm aware of that need, just be aware. Stay with it while it's there. We will notice that this feeling of need begins to fade away naturally. We don't have to push it away. We don't have to reject it. It just fades away naturally. It is because at the beginning, we don't have these needs. When I was young, a baby, I don't need a computer. I don't need houses. I don't need cars. I don't have them. But as I grow up, I begin to desire them. I begin to get attached to them. And in the same way that I learn how to get attached to them, I can also go through the process of non-attaching to them. In other words, being aware of my attachment to them, just being aware, we begin to find that this energy that constitutes attachment will begin to fade away naturally. And then we'll find that we can love without the egoic interest, meaning we can love not because we need that person, but we love because we care for that person. I may own a computer and I take very good care of it because it's something very useful. But if for one reason or another, I lose it, it gets destroyed permanently, then we take it as it is. It's gone. It's not that we want it to be destroyed, but things do happen like that. And the moment it's gone, then it's gone. And if we have the money, we buy again. If not, then we are without a computer. But during the time that we had the computer, then we are able to take good care of it, make the full use of it without trying to possess it psychologically. So this is true about the things that bother us, the things that worry us, the things that we like or dislike, the things that we yearn for or we hate. These are things that tend to be identified with the ego, with the self, and hence it is a source of disturbance. Meditation enables us to become more aware of these, and day by day, these factors begin to fade in our life. Not that we are rejecting them, but that they just fade away in terms of needs or desires or attachment. And then we begin to live life more naturally in this way, and meditation can go more deeply and longer without too much disturbance. Now, we will devote the rest of the time to a discussion, and if you have questions, just unmute your microphone or type down your questions in the chat box, and then we will address them. Here is a question. How do we achieve the non-duality of the mind in relation to meditation? To the best of my understanding, non-duality is the highest state that one can go into. But before one can go into that, it requires a very fundamental transformation of the consciousness, such that there will be no distinction between the one who is looking or thinking and the thought or the objects being observed. This duality is a construction of our consciousness. You will notice, for example, that as you are looking at a computer or your phone, you would think that you are looking at a computer or the phone. But in truth, this phenomenon is happening inside our consciousness. The light coming from the world goes to your eyes, to the retina, and then it goes to our optic nerves, and then it goes to the brain, where the image is reproduced. The light coming from the eyes goes through the optic nerves, and they are just signals. They are not images. And when it goes to the brain, to our mind, then it is being reproduced as if there is a phone or computer in front of us, and there is somebody is watching the computer. So this kind of division between objects and the watcher is something which we internally create. And in order to remove this division, we need to be very conscious of the structure of our consciousness. This division between this sense of self and then the objects that the self observes. This is one of the deepest levels of meditation. There's a very, very famous yogi. He's widely considered as an enlightened individual. His name is Ramana Maharshi. His meditation approach is very simple. It is called vichara, or self-inquiry. It is just to ask, who am I? Because when we are meditating, we may be noticing thoughts, but oftentimes what we don't notice is the self trying to observe the thought. If you close your eyes, you think about the thoughts going around, but who is the one watching these thoughts? It is a center called the self. And the average person is not aware of the center. After this noise of the mind calms down, we would be in a better position to watch reflexively, inwardly, about this one meditating, the one who is thinking, the one who is trying to observe the thoughts and to end the thoughts. Who is this? Who am I? Who is this self? So this is one of the deepest levels of the meditative practice, but it is something which is very difficult to do when the mind, the emotions, are still concerned with the objects of sense, with things, worries, anxieties, attachment, and so on. That is the reason why in meditation, we need to go through stages. There are some people who may say that methods are useless. For example, some of us who may have read the works of Krishnamurti, he would often say that the technique is not the way in meditation. However, for people whose minds are so noisy, jumping up and down, ask them to become directly aware, and they would find it impossible. Hence, it is important that we use certain approaches that would be appropriate to our state. If, for example, I cannot even relax, I must attend to my body tension, because bodily tension will tend to suck away the energy of the consciousness that would be needed in meditation. In meditation, we need energy of the consciousness. When this energy is lacking, you will notice that it is very difficult to become aware. Example, if I'm very tired and sleepy, then you will notice that instead of being aware more and more, the consciousness, the field of awareness becomes narrower and narrower and narrower until I go to sleep. But when I'm not tired and not sleepy, then you will notice that the mind has energy of awareness. And then we can explore, we can observe, we can look at our thoughts. And then even when the thoughts are no longer noisy, this awareness can just be there. And that is meditation proper. Hence, we need to understand the stages of meditation and see what are the obstacles in each stage. And when we do so, we would be able to attend to these problems. Many of us are already familiar with the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. For those who have not, then try to read one of the more useful commentaries of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, like The Science of Yoga by Taimni. It is one of the most comprehensive work regarding the stages of meditation and why we have to do certain things before we can make the mind quiet. For example, if I keep on breathing irregularly, then you'll find that as I breathe like that, then the mind is disturbed because it creates movements of prana in the mind and it creates images in the field of our consciousness. And hence it's very hard to be calm whenever we keep on producing these images because our breathing is irregular. That's the reason why in the Yoga Sutras, we are asked that we need to go into pranayama, or the mastery of the flow of prana, until it's no longer bothering us, and then we can go into state of quiet. Pranayama, of course, is much wider than that. Sometimes people do pranayama for their health and for other things, but for meditation, the purpose is to attain calmness of our mind and consciousness. Another question: is meditation done by sitting down only? Is it okay if you do it through other ways, like child's pose in yoga, or kneeling down with the head on the floor, or by lying down? This is one of the things mentioned in the Yoga Sutras as part of the 8 limbs of yoga, and it refers to asanas. It is the pose. What is called yogic pose is usually for health, but for the purpose of meditation, the purpose of asanas is for us to be able to be physically stable, relaxed, peaceful, so that the body will no longer bother us. If sitting position, like sitting on a chair, enables you to do this, then use it. If you are used to the lotus posture, then use it. If you are used to the kneeling posture, some Buddhists use the kneeling posture, then do so. What is important is that the posture will not bother you while you are meditating. The body should not be in a position that will create discomfort. So the back should be straight, because if the back is bent, curved, crooked, then after 10 or 20 minutes, you'll find that the back becomes painful. Can we do this lying down? It is possible to do this lying down, although unless we are ill, indisposed, it is better that we do so sitting up rather than lying down. Meditation is something which can be very relaxing, that when you do it lying down, it's very easy to go into sleeping state. The posture is secondary, so long as you can sustain it for 20, 30 minutes or an hour. A posture where even after a long period, you are not feeling uncomfortable. If you try to do cross-legged posture, the lotus posture, and you're not yet used to it, it will be painful for several days, maybe a week. But after some time, when you get used to it, then you will find that it's no longer painful when you use this kind of sitting posture. If you sit in a chair, just make sure that if for some reason you fall asleep or what, you just won't fall on the side and be a bit risky. So sit in a chair with an armchair, or sit in a place where on the side, both sides, you have something that you will be able to lean on, like a neighboring chair, just for protection. Let me move on to other question. I have been reading the process of self-transformation. It is mentioned that worry is the scourge of humanity. Could you elaborate a little bit on this? What we call worry is composed of two things. The first is concern, and the other is fear. Concern and fear. When there is no fear, then it is not a worry, but a concern. For example, you need to put something back to your drawer. So you know that you have to do that, but you are not doing it yet. But to you, it's important. Then it is a concern that you put back something to where it belongs. When you have no fear, then it doesn't bother you. It is just simply a concern. On the other hand, if that concern is accompanied by fear, then it becomes worry. For example, my daughter is not yet home. It's already 12 midnight. If I'm concerned and there's no fear, I'll act on it. I'll try to see what should I do. I'll call the friends, I'll call neighbors, I'll call my relatives, and act on my concern. It's not a worry, but a concern. But when we begin to worry, then you begin to feel something else. You'll feel discomfort in your stomach, you'll feel tension in your hands, and sometimes when we are not aware and have no control over the fear part of the worry, we begin to become less effective. A person who has fear may become frozen from acting rather than acting on something. That's the reason why certain types of animals, upon hearing the loud roar of another animal, they will freeze. People who are in panic, instead of being able to solve their emergency situation, they will also freeze out of panic. So worry is not necessary so long as we learn how to become effective when we have concern. In other words, what are the things I need to do today? One of the best ways is to have a things to do list, which I believe many of you are already doing. List down the things that you need to do today and just do them. Suppose there are 5 or 10 things that you need to do today, then go ahead and list them down and do it one by one until it's all finished. Maybe you'll finish it in 2 hours. And after 2 hours, you'll find that on that day, there is nothing that bothers your mind anymore because you have done what you need to do. The function of worry is to keep on prodding us and reminding us that there are things that we need to do. And if we're not yet doing it, that worry, which is in the subconscious mind, will keep on pushing us. But that, when not attended to, is something that keeps on being recycled, and then it bothers us in our daily life. So we have to learn how to act on our concern rather than make worry a part of our life. Somebody has also shared, I'm not sure if you have discussed about karma in this pandemic now. I missed the previous session. This is a big subject, very complex, but it is also simple in the sense that we live in nature, and nature has developed certain things that interact with each other. It can be a storm, it can be a tidal wave, it can be a volcanic eruption, it can be bacterial infection, viral infection, and along the process, we have to deal with them. These types of interactive influence among organisms in the world is something that has been going on for billions of years, millions and billions of years. Right now, we are facing what's the one such example. And it just so happens that it is a virus that we have to face, but it could be something else. It can be pollution, which is man-made, or it can be natural, like a volcanic eruption. And what is important is that we are able to deal with it effectively. This part of the larger karma of the earth, of humanity, as well as individuals. And so what we have to do is that on an individual basis, we try to do our best, first in order to keep our body and our family safe. Then second, if we can, try to help outside of our family what can be done in order to minimize the spread of such an infection. Right now, we still don't have a cure or a medicine for this. So the best way is still to prevent. One day, if there is a cure or medicine for this, then it will be less of a problem. But then another kind of infection or virus can still come, and so we have to deal with them. So right now, as we face this, we ask ourselves, what is it that we can do at this moment? First, in order to help in the pandemic, and secondly, in order to make use of the time when we are inside our houses and making use of this free time. Here in the Philippines, the Theosophical Society, as well as members of the society, have been doing their part in trying to prevent the spread by providing, for example, masks, providing alcohol, providing protective equipment, and then providing food for those who may have need for food. And we do so by arranging for deliveries and not us ourselves going to crowds in order to do this. We try to do this with a minimum of exposure of people. So in your areas, whatever it is that you can do, try to do so. And then this, as Tim Boyle has said, will pass. It is something that this is not the first time that we have such a plague among us. Although this may look like the worst, but this is not the first time, but it will pass away, and we just have to go through this. There's a question here. Can we cultivate too much prana, but our physical bodies are not prepared for it? I am not certain as to whether there is harmfulness in having too much prana. There are some people who have this in larger store than others, who have become healers. There are well-known healers who has accumulated this much and they're able to help other people. When this pranic flow is interrupted, blocked, then it may become a problem, but it's not because of too much prana, but because of other things. That's my understanding of this situation. When it comes to meditation, however, just take note that our aim in the management of prana is that the pranic flow is normal. It just circulates in our body naturally. Prana flows through our body naturally 24 hours a day. When there are no obstructions, then we don't even feel it. It's just going around. But when there are congestions or obstructions, that's when problems begin. Hence, it is helpful to become familiar also with discomforts that we feel in the body that is manifested by blockages of prana. And then we use pranayama or qi kung in order to let this normalize. So far as meditation is concerned, what we are after is just the normal flow of prana. The question of Keith is it possible to share the recording for today's session? Yes, it is possible. The session today has been recorded by Chali Romero, who is the president of the TS in the Philippines, and we will ask him to make it available to us. There is a question here. What is the role and use of meditation in the midst of this crisis in relation to the coronavirus pandemic? I partly answered this already a while ago, but since you're asking about the role of meditation, I'll just restate something which I mentioned on the first session of our guided meditation. A person can do what we may call healing session. It's actually not healing meditation, but a healing session. But that's different from meditation. When we do healing, we try to send thoughts that would be helpful to other people, either to an individual or to a group of people. And it involves energizing those thoughts towards those other people. The energy can come from us or from other sources, of which we are but channels. But that process is not the same as meditation. When we do meditation, especially group meditation, we are creating an atmosphere in the inner world of something that is peaceful, something that is calm, something that may be spiritually healing. In other words, it can heal the inside, but it may not necessarily help in dealing with a virus. Human sickness is on various levels: physical level, the etheric level, the emotional level, the mental level, and we have to use the proper method in dealing with these kinds of sicknesses. For physical sickness, then oftentimes physical methods or pranic methods will be very helpful. But the greater malady in humanity is the inner sickness, because it is the root of wrong living. If my mind, my habits, my way of life is not wholesome, then it will just be reflected into my physical life, my daily habits. And hence, it is important for us to help spread wide that of wholesome living. Wholesome means to be whole, not only physical, but emotional, mental, and spiritual. And the physical is the outermost, but the deepest level is the spiritual level. When there is spiritual health, then we will find that the mind is also clear, logical, intuitive. Emotions become calm, and the physical habits also align itself with these tendencies. There is a request here to keep you informed about the regular meditation session. We have actually also a joint lodge meeting in the Philippines every Saturday afternoon, also at 3 o'clock. So if there are no other questions or issues, I'd like to thank you for joining us today, and hopefully this session has been helpful in your days during this lockdown.
So it was very insightful and very helpful in terms of awareness and in the deep aspects of meditation. So the last week we touched upon the fundamentals of meditation and about the lower nature, the higher nature. And in this week, we touched upon the deeper states of awareness and meditativeness. Uh, so I still remember, like in one of his teachings, where Vic said that, you know, the awareness and the concentration and the awareness are two different things. When I am here and I just observe what's around me is awareness. But when I particularly hear or pay attention to something which is very, 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 very essential, or which I feel is important from my perspective, and look at it in detail, do a surgery on that, then that is called as concentration. So the concentration and awareness together is what is called as meditation. And yes, in the process where we reflect ourselves. Okay, now also touching on this point, when we say we reflect ourselves, it also reminds me, because yesterday we just had a talk on Annie Besant's anniversary day. So we were talking about the qualifications of discipleship, and there also they touched upon meditation, where she mentions that meditation is a constant and a deliberate act of thought fixation and concentration. So when you fix your thought and when you keep your concentration, and you do that as a part of your life process in a mental way, then automatically you see that there is a difference where you start realizing yourself that I fix my thought on something, but what is actually happening to me? Which is the one which is fixing the thought there? So there is a sort of an inquiry or an inner travel which happens, thereby we start opening up ourselves to a much more higher nature, which uses this mind as its instrument. So from that space, we understand that there is a level of consciousness which operates there. And from that level of consciousness is what uh, that reaches a state where the one who is creating the thoughts and the thoughts which has been created, or the object which he sees, or the object which he perceives, all become one. The state of Turiya, or the Sushupti rather. So that's this place where the non-duality is being established. So we have a philosophy of Vedanta which talks about this non-duality. And if you see, they ask you to do something called as vichara, which even we touched upon today on Ramana Maharishi when he's mentioned. So this is exactly what he needs to say, that you start asking that who is that consciousness, or who is that one who's actually creating all these thought forms. And from there, things start flowing down. The purpose gets revealed, the actions get guided, and even your emotions get subdued to those purposeful lives. And from there, we now start getting into the process uh, of our own deeper selves of awareness. And in that realms of awareness, we observe ourselves that sometimes, because the mind is now slightly starting to fade away, it wants to re-establish itself. And in that moment, it starts creating some surfaces of tensions or surfaces of worry or fear or etc. etc. And for that moment, we need to get back and work on the basics. And what are the basics? First one, a physical calmness, which you can achieve through an asana which is comfortable for you. So sitting down, you can take a very comfortable posture, but see to it that you don't sleep. Second one is an alertness and an awareness. Third one is, now you don't panic. You just stay calm and you just observe what's happening. Like how you would watch a movie, just observe yourself what's happening. That's all. This calmness is required. And to facilitate that calmness, to get into that sphere of calmness, you use some breathing techniques. The best one is to start taking deep breaths and center yourself. That's all. You wish to do 6 counts, hold for 3 counts, exhale for 6 counts, hold for 3 counts. Inhale for 7 counts, hold for 1 count, exhale for 7 counts, hold for 1 count. Either ways. Or any other technique of pranayama which is specified in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. Any of the formalities is okay. Any of the modalities or techniques is okay. But that remember that is only transitional. That means that after a particular moment in time, a few minutes of breathing, you would enter into a state of complete oneness, in complete state of stillness. And from there, the vichara happens. So with this state, let us take at least a 5 minutes break to relax ourselves, to release all the tensions in the body. And also, if needed, you can prepare yourself in the meantime, taking some deep breaths and centering yourselves. And then we can proceed with the meditation. We'll take a 5 minutes break, go for a toilet break, or sit down and relax. And after 5 minutes, we will sit down for meditation. So kindly mute yourself and you can switch off your videos, and after 5 minutes, I'll turn it on. Thank you. Well, so let's now start with the meditation. Smitaji, please take over.
I will start by explaining the procedure that we are going to use in our group meditation. We are going to use a classic approach to meditation. As many of you are familiar, meditation has at least two major levels. The first level would be the taming process, which is the preparatory process, which enables us to tame the jumping monkey mind. The second level is meditation proper, which is called dhyana in the Yoga Sutras. And there, even if we don't use any kind of mantra or counting, a person would be able to sustain one's awareness there. We will start with the taming process, which is we will make use of counting. I'll explain the procedure, and then for those among you who are already very experienced in meditation, you can go on and do meditation proper. You already know what to do, and you may not need to go into the counting anymore. So what is the counting process? It is a standard classic approach wherein which we deal with the jumping monkey mind. Whenever we quiet our mind, you will notice that the mind would keep on going to many things, your worries, your concerns for tomorrow, the ideas that you have, the things that you like or dislike, they go to these things. But during meditation, and we will do it for about 20 minutes today, we will just tame our mind and allow the mind to focus on one object or one theme. And we are going to use, first is awareness of the breathing, and then the use of counting. When we breathe in, normally, not deep breathing, but normal breathing, then you mentally count 1. And when you breathe out, you mentally count 2. When you breathe in, mentally count 1, and breathe out, mentally count 2. If some of you find that even this exercise of counting 1 and 2 seems difficult, meaning your mind keeps on going back to many things still, then there is a preliminary approach which you can use. And this is, for the out breath, you count up to 50. So breathe in, count 1, breathe out, count 1, breathe in, count 1, and breathe out, count 2. Breathe in 1, breathe out 3. You do this until you go up to 50, and you can start all over again to 1 and so on. You'll find that this will make it easier for you to stay in the practice of the meditation. In our group meditation right now, what we're going to do is that I'll start with some preliminary guidelines, particularly relaxing ourselves, and then I will go into silence of approximately 20 minutes. And during this 20 minutes, you do the meditation process, the counting, or the awareness itself. And then every about 2 minutes, I will make use of a bell, which is this one. And the purpose of the bell is that in case you are lost again in your thoughts, thinking of many other things, then the bell will remind us to go back to the counting or to the meditation. If your mind goes away 100 times, then just gently bring it back 100 times. After our meditation, I'll be sharing with you some thoughts on the practice of meditation, and then we're going to go into a discussion, a question and answer period where we may want to clarify certain things about the practice of meditation and living the higher life. So now you may choose to close your eyes or to keep them half open. And we will begin by becoming aware of our physical body. The breathing is normal. Let your spine be straight, body rested and comfortable. Each time you breathe out, be aware of your body and your limbs, your arms and legs, and allow them to become relaxed and restful. As you breathe out, let the body become relaxed. If you feel any discomfort in your body, be aware of it as you breathe in, and be aware of your arms and legs as you breathe out. And as your body becomes more and more fully relaxed, you will notice that the emotions also become quiet and calm. Now, let us be aware of our mind. Notice the thoughts coming in and out, coming and going. Do not stop them or fight them. Just be aware of them without rejecting them, but without entertaining them. Just be aware. And as you watch your mind, you will notice that our consciousness has a space. It is a space where all thoughts and experiences come. That space is awareness. Noticing thoughts and sensations and feelings without judgment, just being aware. Now, let us be aware now of our breathing. As we breathe in, mentally say 1, and as we breathe out, mentally say 2. Sustaining this inner awareness, let us now be conscious of the sounds around us. Sustaining this inward awareness, let us now be conscious of our physical sensations, including our emotions. Sustaining this inward awareness, let us gently open our eyes and be conscious of our physical surroundings, aware of the world without, and aware of the space within. If we begin to move our physical body, try to be aware that we are about to move them, and be aware when we are moving any part. Try to sustain this quality of inner awareness throughout the rest of the day. An awareness that just watches, does not condemn, does not judge, does not like or dislike, just being aware.
Take your time. Take your time. Gently return back to your body. Return to your body. In the interest of time, we are closing the session without question and answers, but please do drop in any of your views or your questions. We will be covering it or answering it later. We'll have a closing prayer. Oh. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Thank you all for joining this session. Hope you have a very conscious week, a conscious day, and a day filled with pleasant awareness. Have a good day. Thank you.